Oscar, did you hear about the passing of Brigadier General Charles McGee?
No, I don't believe I have. Who is Brigadier General Charles McGee?
He was one of the most decorated pilots who served with the pioneering all-black Tuskegee Airmen during World War II. During his career, he flew in over 400 combat missions.
He sounds like a real American hero.
Definitely. He was one of the last surviving Tuskegee Airmen, passing away at 102.
Wow, it sounds like he had a pretty epic life. But I'm not super familiar with the Tuskegee Airmen, although I've definitely heard of them before.
Let's go to Trenton for a deeper dive into this very special group of American heroes in this week's edition of Next Gen History.
Hey Next Gen viewers, welcome to Next Gen History. Today I'm going to fill you in on the Tuskegee Airmen. They were the first black aviators in the U.S. Army Air Corps, or AAC, which was basically the Air Force before the Air Force was an official branch of the military. In 1938, President Roosevelt announced a civilian pilot training program in response to the fact that Europe was on the brink of another Great War. At this time, U.S. armed forces were still racially segregated, meaning there were different units for black soldiers than white soldiers. There was also racist beliefs that black soldiers didn't perform as well as their white counterparts. During World War I, black Americans were rejected from flying planes due to this belief. But civil rights activists, the black press, and the Tuskegee Institute, a historically black college founded by Booker T. Washington, lobbied that black Americans should be included in the pilot training program. And in 1940, President Roosevelt announced that the AAC would begin training black pilots, a program known as the Tuskegee Experiment. The Tuskegee Institute was selected as a training site because of its commitment to civilian pilot training program, and because it was equipped with the appropriate facilities. It also happened to be in the Jim Crow South, which meant that segregation was the law of the land and not just in the military. Black people consistently were subjected to unimaginable racism and cruelty, and yet the first black aviation class of 13 cadets began July 19, 1941 at the Tuskegee Institute. These brave American patriots went to serve their country despite the unfair circumstances they lived in. The Tuskegee Institute and Tuskegee Armed Airfield, or TAF, will go on to be the center for African American aviation during World War II. In 1943, the 99th Fighter Squadron, made up of the Tuskegee Airmen, were ready for combat, and despite receiving little advice from experienced combat pilots, they successfully executed their first mission during World War II. And that was just the start. They were later joined by 3 additional black squadrons that formed the 332nd Fighter Group and became one of the most successful and decorated escort groups of World War II. After the war in Europe ended in 1945, the black airmen and supported personnel returned to the U.S. where they continued to face racism. Despite their outstanding record, they had very limited opportunities to advance through the ranks of the military. White military units, on the other hand, were undermanned and had trouble filling positions with qualified individuals. This led President Harry Truman to pass Executive Order 9981, which abolished discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, or national origin in the United States Armed Forces, effectively ending segregation in American armed forces. This was a big step for civil rights and will lead to more integration throughout American society. From 1941 to 1946, 992 pilots graduated from Tuskegee Army Airfield courses. They flew 1,578 missions and won more than 850 medals. The late Brigadier General Charles McGee is one of the Tuskegee Airmen that risked their lives to protect Americans despite being treated like second-class citizens. Let's now hear from McGee himself about his experience in the military in a special 2016 interview.
Being brought up, you know, we say we're African American or black, but we're American. And the country was at war. We were just as interested in supporting that effort as anybody else at that time. And so we turned our back on the fact that there was segregation, if you will, and took advantage of the opportunity to prove that we can fly airplanes, we can maintain airplanes, and those we can do whatever our education and aspirations, where those things lead us. The legacy I feel that we leave is that our young folks, regardless of their circumstances, say where they're born or where they live, the school they attend, that they can achieve if they believe it.
Oh man, fighting for your country and leaving a legacy in spite of facing constant racism? That's pretty inspiring.
It really is. The Tuskegee Airmen sure made their mark on history. Thanks, Trenton, for that inspiring look back on this important piece of American history. And thank you, Brigadier General Charles McGee, and the rest of the Tuskegee Airmen for your heroism.